Welcome. You're listening to How I Did That, a storytelling podcast. Let's jump into today's episode.
Before we begin, I just wanted to note that our guest on today's episode, Safa, mentioned wanting to launch a podcast at the time this was recorded. However, at the time it's being released, she has already launched her podcast, My Positive Pocket, and has a few episodes out. So I'm going to insert a little commercial here so you can check out her podcast.
Hello everyone, it is Safa. I just wanted to add one little tidbit. I just started my podcast. My podcast is called My Positive Pocket, and it is on all the platforms. So if you look that up and see my first few episodes, it would mean the world to me. And it's all about positivity and really just finding your sparkles. So I hope you take a look-see. And then, of course, the other things. Please go to my Instagram. My Instagram is Silver Key Creations, and I also have a Facebook page, same name. I would love to meet you. I had so much fun with this interview, and I hope you enjoyed it. But toodles for now, and thank you so much for watching.
Now, back to the episode.
So first, thank you so much for being here. And I wanted to have you on here today to talk about your vegan journey and your artwork, because you make amazing artwork. So can you just start by introducing yourself and your background and what you do?
Yeah, well, firstly, my name is Safa. It's S-A-F as in frog, A. And I pronounce it Safa, but it's pronounced many different ways by many different people. I am a fine artist who lives in Oregon, and I am vegan, of course, which is why I'm on Tofu Talks. I just actually launched my business very recently. I launched it in the summer because I had just graduated from SOU, Southern Oregon University, with a degree in art, and just decided to take this entrepreneurial journey on my own. And so I did that pandemic. And so I'm only 21, and I have been vegan for, I don't know, I'm bad at math, but I know it's over 8 years. Consistently vegan, and actually right now I am raw vegan, just by happenings. It just kind of happened. I kind of ended up changing. I was going to do a BFA, which is like the big bomb, but I ended up, my university experience is all over the place. So I'm born in Texas. And then I moved to Connecticut to go to art school. I went to Lime Academy of Fine Arts. I was there for a year and a half, and I was going for a BFA, which is a Bachelor's of Fine Arts. And then my school, I had so much scholarship to go to that school, over $100,000 in scholarship. But then they lost funding, and I had to transfer schools, and then I moved to Oregon, and then I changed that degree last moment, and I ended up graduating in 3 years, so I'm only 21. I don't really know how I did it in 3 years. That part, I'm like I said, I'm bad at math, so they're just like, you know what, your credits add up, and I'm like, for real? And they're like, for real. And they're like, you can graduate. And I was like, yay. I don't know. It just kind of worked out in my favor. I did not mean to do it, but I am so happy I kind of accidentally did it. And it was just kind of like a tie over. So I just made the little push and did it in 3.
So then when you graduated with that, what was your intention going into that field or getting a degree in that field?
When you're a little child and you sit in that circle in kindergarten and you go around the classroom and everyone's like, I want to be a firefighter, I want to be an astronaut, and I want to be a garbage truck person, and I want to work in McDonald's. I was that child that was just like, I'm going to be an artist and I'm going to save animals. And everyone's like, okay, Safa. Because it was always like not a I want to be. It was I already am, but I'm just going to start making money. And I don't know exactly how it's going to save animals. But basically, I'm going to save the world. At these big, sparkly plans at the very ripe age of, 4. I just decided, It was never a decision. It was more like I just knew. And with my art, it's always been an innate skill that I can't explain myself. So it's kind of like I literally feel like I am a slave to my right hand and I watch myself paint. I literally have no idea what I'm doing, but I just watch myself paint and I try not to think about it too hard, because if I do, you realize that the thing you're best at, you really have no idea how you're doing. So I don't think about that, because that would be a cognitive dissonance that would just rip me apart. So I always knew the degree in art was, I actually, didn't really have glorious plans of going to continue my education after high school. I actually kind of twisted and used university as my ticket to go where I wanted in the world, because my parents wouldn't just allow me to move to Oregon. But if I found a school and, I convinced them that it's purely out of academic pursuit, I finally got to live in a valley surrounded by mountains. And, if I had to do a lot of homework and blah, blah, and some math and chemistry and biology, it was worth it, because now I live in a valley surrounded by mountains and I am so grateful waking up every morning. It never really was like I need this degree to do what I want, because always, what I want to be is an entrepreneur, and you don't need a degree to tell yourself you're worthy, but you can learn a lot of, valuable information and with university. And looking back at my university, even if my parents hadn't forced it, no, I wouldn't have done it. But it's not that I learned any art skills. That is no, my art looks the same. In fact, I've never actually painted animals and stuff for homework assignments, because my homework assignments in art school was always paint boxes, paint skeletons. They were real skeletons, and paint, just like angles and stuff, which is not what I do in my actual art. It's all, fluffy fantasy animals and that kind of thing. So it never was art skills, but I just had a lot of life in a lot of different places, and it was really worth it. And it may not have been what I kind of needed for my profession, but it definitely structured me as a person. And I guess like the academic setting, there's just like you're surrounded by people who are trying to expand their brains. And when you have that kind of pool of people, you push yourself harder, I guess. And I don't know what it would have been like without it, but I value it. So yeah.
A lot of people I know, they don't work in fields directly related to what they studied. Sometimes it derivates a little bit. Sometimes it's completely different from what they studied, but they use transferable skills and all the general skills that they learn in college and being around people. Everybody kind of wants to go in some direction, and you're kind of surrounded by that. And so you start to think well, how can I make my art better? Or maybe how can I be more ambitious in what I want to do?
Right.
Being surrounded by that mindset in itself is a good thing.
Right. And being surrounded by people who are kind of treating themselves like zombies temporarily because they have to finish that assignment. And it's it's grueling. It's worth it in that you really get a work ethic and you get the stuff done.
Just the mindset of being around people in college, around the professors that maybe you can network or have resources. For example, you might have access to specific
right? So many resources. Ridiculous. Even financial assistance. It just comes with this arsenal of info that you can access pretty much your whole lives just because like you went there. I actually spent my last few terms online. Honestly, I loved it. It was convenient. There was no like, you didn't have to go places at a certain time. You can, like an entrepreneur, dictate your own schedule, which is what I live by.
So are you in Oregon right now?
Yes, I plan to stay here for the rest of my life. Honestly, it's the most beautiful little fairy tale heaven I could have imagined in the world, but this one exists. And it's basically, I mean, explaining Oregon to other people, it's basically Switzerland, except people speak English, so it's convenient. It's just a beautiful place, and the produce here is like insane. And where I am, people are all about organic, and you don't have to worry about conventional, and people are so environmentally friendly. It's so enlightening to just be surrounded by very enlightened people. I am in Talent, Oregon. I'm right next to Ashland, Oregon, and Ashland, Oregon is known for the Shakespeare Festival. So it's just like a really artistic, cute, adorable little town. Talent is right next door, and unfortunately, we had a really devastating forest fire this summer, and Talent, Oregon is half of what it was, and the little town next door is almost completely wiped out. Phoenix, Oregon. It's just a really sensitive kind of, we're still kind of getting out of it, and I was evacuated for 2 weeks. I was reading through our group email and what the people like need. So many people lost their homes, so now we get like these lists of what they're looking for, and we can send them to drop-off situations, and like people just have like a garage lot open. They're like, everybody bring the stuff and we'll take it for you. So I was reading through like what to bring, like toothpaste and whatnot. It's really different. It's just like also soon, and it's also real. I still have to drive out of the driveway, drive past my burnt down mailbox and drive past all the burnt buildings, and it's difficult. It's still really hard to swallow. It was like one day when we were all evacuated, and then like that's when all the sirens happened and all of that whatnot, and it burned throughout that night through the next day. So it was like we had like 40-mile-per-hour winds that were ripping it through towns, like not just like forests, but like towns, because we have a greenway, which is basically like this little like forest trail that goes along our little like cute strip of towns, and it ripped through the greenway and took down towns with it. It was just the most devastating thing. I feel like
your house was safe and everything around it was pretty
my house. No. The street right behind me is wiped out. Like I am literally living surrounded by rubble. I changed my normal walking. I take daily walks like twice a day. I ended up changing my path because it's still too hard to walk by that area, because like all the trees are gone, and it's just like this awful remains that are just not going away, and everything is sprayed with fire retardant, so everything is an awful bright orange, and it's like walking through a war zone. It's like, it literally is like all these buildings. The hotel is gone, and like, the storage unit is gone, and the rock shop is gone, and the farmer's market is gone. Like, it's just like going down a line, and it's like these neighborhoods. I used to know who lived here, and I don't see her anymore because she doesn't live there anymore. Like, you have to accept that it's all just gone. And that's the hardest part, It's just like, you literally can't bring it back, but you have to be okay anyway. It's just so hard for all of us because we live through it every day, you know? Like, it's not going to be gone tomorrow. It's still there, and you just hope it will, but it's just not. And it's like, we're all getting through it, and we have like stay strong talent and all these like signs, and everyone's trying to uplift people. And like right after it happened, and when we were finally, I mean, we came back when you weren't even allowed in the parameters. So we were sneaking past police. I got caught by a police car like 3 times that. I got pulled over by a police because I was in unforbidden territory, because I was sneaking into my house because I needed to get my cantaloupes. I was like, I had my melons and they were ripening, and I was not going to a home full of rotten food, even though, you know, that's what happened when you leave a fridge without any power for weeks and weeks. So a lot of people were just like throwing out the fridge, get a new one, and you could get that done for free. Like all the businesses kind of pitched in, and everyone's just doing what they can, but it's like not going away. Like I don't know. I just like, I guess I expected it to rebuild itself really quickly, but it's just not possible when everything's gone. Our kind of story is just kind of deemed as unimportant. And I mean, the whole candidate thing just kind of blew everything over. We were that one sad little town that just somewhere far away, something bad happened to, and nobody's even heard of us. And Talent, Oregon and Phoenix, Oregon are just like awfully, you know, devastated little places that they're just nobody's heard about.
So like, did most people like relocate, or have they told everyone in that area?
Everyone, basically they were just like, you can't be here, you know, we're evacuating, like this town might be gone in an hour. And you know, we were just kind of like freaking out, packing cats, just like packing like the most important things and just running, you know, because it was the day we left, everything was in a standstill traffic. People were losing their minds, going on the wrong side of the road, driving on the median. Like everyone was just kind of fending for themselves and scramming and going through, like, you see Jeeps, they're just like suckers, and they're just like driving through fields and stuff, and we're just kind of like in standstill traffic, and we're like, okay, and just freaking out because everything was black, you know. It was that day that was just like the world turned black. We couldn't breathe, you know, for weeks and weeks because all the air was toxic and our water was toxic and everything. I mean, it was just such a war zone. We couldn't recognize everything because everything was either burnt down or in this thick, awful, toxic haze that made everything look like some haunted graveyard. And because it really did, because it was just rubble, and like houses looked like tombstones. And it was just like, ugh. And it was just like reporters everywhere. And like people filming you and just like staring at you like, oh, look, and this is Safa, the poor little child that is just kind of stranded in her town that once was. Let's put this on, you know, like, let's film this. I don't know. It was kind of like, I felt like I was living in an exhibit where like people were just kind of documenting, and it was just so weird.
What happens to your house now? Because you said you go on walks every day, you see the rubble. So are you back to that house that they told you to evacuate?
I am back. I went back after 10 days, which was early because, you know, a lot of people didn't go back after months because it was just too painful. But I didn't have anywhere else to go. I went to 3 different evacuation homes. I went to, I was just hopping from place. Like, I knew this guy on Instagram, and like, I was literally in the situation where I didn't know this guy in person, and I was going to just stay in his bedroom because I didn't know what else to do, you know? And it's like that creepy where you're just forced to do things. I lost 20 pounds in that week. I mean, I lost everything, and I'm still struggling to gain anything back, but it was like we were all, I mean, like I had no appetite, and I was like living from like different people's, you know, homes and fridges, and Grocery stores just like couldn't restock, you know, like it was literally all the gas stations ran out of gas. Everyone was hoarding things. Yeah, it was just, I mean, I went through World War III or IV, just driving back to Sneak, you know, having to take back roads and stuff because they were just like barricades everywhere and the National Guard everywhere and just like the trucks everywhere and everyone was watching and I just got into so much like trouble because I was, you know, a rebel and went down and, you know, knocked down some barricades. I'm like, ooh, orange barricade. Oh, I see why that was blocked off. Turning around. This is all burned. My house did not get burned. My mailbox did get burned. My ballet slippers got burned, which is the least of my problems. It was in the mailbox and I was dancing on holes and I was like, I need those. And then like the mailbox wasn't there. And I was like, darn it! Literally right there. And like my neighbors are just like checking on me and they're like, are you okay? Are you okay? And then when you go back, even when we weren't allowed to go back, it was just so heartbreaking. Like through this gray fog, it was like seeing my other neighbor and it's like we would just get so happy to see each other and it's like, what are you doing? And like, I'm watering my plants. You know, everyone is so like careful of their gardens and stuff and everything was just kind of covered in like an ash. And there were bits and pieces of buildings everywhere. It started from there's all these conspiracy theories like, oh, it was a political act and blah blah, and there's reasons why certain buildings burned, but honestly, what's done is done. I don't know. It's supposed to be a forest fire. I don't want to think anyone did this to us on purpose.
Is there still like a fog in the sky, or how are things?
No. Now, it took about a month for the air to clean. So we have clean air. We're not supposed to walk past like burned things because of asbestos and stuff, but we do because we have to, you know, it's everywhere. You still kind of walk past that kind of stuff. I personally avoid it and I'm usually in a car like driving past, but we're all doing okay. It's like even when I think like this is kind of behind me and I'm stronger now and it's beautiful and it was a gift that made me stronger, it's still like I'm having a happy day. I'm driving down to the dentist and then I'm just like, you know, singing in the car and just happy and looking at the sunshine. And then I see a little bit of orange on the road and I just start crying. Like you're all okay, but until you're not, you know, just those sometimes out of the blue, it catches you off guard and like you just kind of crumble a little bit. Yeah. But yeah, this is kind of off topic. It just kind of blew up because it happened. It started in California.
Wow.
It's always like if California is burning, we can't breathe. That's how it works. Like the air quality, if they burn, we suffer. I mean, we're kind of sisters. Like we're sister states, I guess, that like we're in the same boat. If one of us is gonna like, you know, have doomsday, we're both gonna have doomsday. It's so sad because our little town is so environmentally friendly, but we're the little town that's burning. I mean, it's just environmental pressures have just reached a breaking point when it just can't take it anymore. Like the earth has taken so much and it takes and we still just haven't learned our lesson and continue to abuse. But there's a time that comes that like it bites us right back and things just crumble. And that's what's happening to us. I just love this place so much, but like the thought of next summer scares me. You know, it's like what's happening next? Just because we're in such a difficult situation in the climate today, where everything is so delicate. It's so easy for things to go wrong.
Everything that's happening, like animal exploitation, that's what caused COVID. And us having to sit at home as Mother Nature kind of rebalancing itself in a lot of things.
I completely agree. You know, my analogy for COVID is it is like the mother that shut us in our room and said, think about what you've done
Yep.
and stay inside. And I honestly feel like COVID has been the biggest and most necessary wake-up call for humanity imaginable. And you really needed a big catastrophic event to create big, life-changing, earth-changing change that we really, really were just so desperate for. I value COVID. It's another one of those gifts that has just shaken us up and like made us rethink about how we're doing everything, and just having to realize that sometimes there's just something bigger and greater, among us, and we can't be the boss in every situation. We can't, like, the world doesn't revolve around us. Like, we're the boss, we're the smartest, we're the this, we're the that, we can do whatever we want with these, enslaved animals. Like, it's our right. It's our, right, like, animals were put on this planet for us. Everything is for us. It's our resources.
We breathe out carbon dioxide, right? And we breathe in the oxygen from plants. I mean, you might know this, but animal, what is the word? Poop that's the non-formal word. Animal poop is a good fertilizer for soil.
Right.
And animal urine is a good disinfectant. And people aren't going to clean their mirrors with it, but in nature, there are things.
I have heard of this like weird thing where you can like cure like warts with like pee and like, I don't know, there's
a ton of things, but like before we started commercializing everything, things were made to balance out. We came in and ruined that balance, and it needs to restore itself. And a lot of times, like, I think companies should not put the burden on the customer to be like, oh, now you have to recycle this, and you have to not buy this, and you have to do this and this. Whereas the company should not be making products like that in the first place.
It's overwhelming sometimes to live in a world that functions like with cruelty as its norm. So like, being a vegan, it's like, not only do we have to look at labels and whatnot, but we have to, bug those support people and be like, well, what is this ingredient? And like, this is vague. What do you mean by this? And where do you source your palm oil from? Mm-hmm. And like, you know what I mean? Like, you have to be that person. And I am like that really nitpicky, ethical vegan where it's like, I for my business, my art, I do print fulfillment, and I have fine art reproduction printed of my work. So like my paintings printed on paper, on canvas, on metal, on wood. And a lot of companies are not vegan, these printing companies. So it was such a long and tedious research to finally settle on my company, because you have to go, and even my company, it's like I only offer the vegan product, and it's like where you have to like go through all these discrepancies and like, oh, well, we can't really guarantee that there's no animals in this. There's a lot of unknown. I came to find that it's like they don't even know what they're using. Ugh, it's just like, it's their company, like they should know what they're using, but they don't know what they're using. They're like, it's just too far down in production and we are unsure, so we can't guarantee that's vegan. Sorry.
Where in the supply chain of making paint do you see that they are using animal products?
Adhesives.
Oh.
Adhesives in prints, in like the inks. So like with my prints, I can only offer, it's like metal prints, wood prints, canvas prints, but like not another kind of canvas. And then it's like they have all these other things, like they have like exposure, whatever that is. And they have like all these different kinds of metals and weird like materials that are supposed to be like newer and cooler and more shiny, but they just use animal products.
What are the adhesives made of? Like animal
byproducts? Oh, just byproducts like cow hooves and all sorts of, I mean, with glue is that big, no situation where it's like Elmer's is good. I did my research. I don't know about all Elmer's, but most Elmer's, and it has a cow on it. So I got so concerned, it's like Elmer's got a cow. Oh no, it's a sign. It's like Chick-fil-A broadcasting how they, just like kill chickens, which makes no sense. That's what they should be like hiding, but that's what they live by. But anyway, I was afraid that they used cows, but it turns out Elmer is okay, which is good because it's so common in like schools. Like you have to be really like, if you're gonna get any kind of glue, it's like, oh, I want to get this kind of craft glue or whatever. You have to go to their support forum, like literally, and you have to bother those support people, and they're like, we'll get back to you. We need to ask another guy, and we need to ask another guy, and then it's like, basically, if you're gonna get something, anything, and you want to ensure it's vegan, you should start planning a few months in advance because they're gonna have to take a while to get back to you. There's a lot of buffering in my purchases.
Okay. So, you wanted to talk about how veganism has impacted you going into artwork, right? In your art. So
yeah,
let's go back and start with how and when and why did you become vegan and talk about your journey there.
Absolutely. So it was also, me as a really, really young child in kindergarten, just like it wasn't like a very obvious, like, oh, I will become vegan. And because I didn't know what that was, and it's like, I didn't even know what vegetarianism was as a young child because that wasn't in my family. And all I knew was kind of what was surrounded me in my world. And there were no vegetarians in my kindergarten. So I was just literally not I didn't even know it was a thing. But something just felt off. And it's like I'm actually what I know now as a HSP, which is called a highly sensitive person. It's like a sliver of the population has this. It's basically our nervous system is on steroids. And it was definitely something that kind of ravaged through my childhood because I didn't know what it was. Nobody knew what it was. I was just very sensitive. And it's like normal things can like kind of like tip us off. Like we usually don't do good in cities. It's like sometimes like everything seems okay and like everyone's like, surrounded and we're in the parking lot, but it was just too hot. It's like we see colors more bright. It's like we hear things louder and everything is stronger, like smells and stuff. I don't know. It's just like living on with like steroids.
So how'd you get diagnosed?
Basically, well, first of all, as a young child, I was having a difficult time functioning in a world that's not not aware of highly sensitive people. And highly sensitive, okay, this is my theory. Highly sensitive is what we all used to be before we became civilized, I guess. And it's like we kind of like developed norms that kind of broke us out of it. But then once in a while, somebody's born and they're just born like a wild human.
Well, I
mean, it makes sense.
True, because
the senses. I mean, like the senses, I would be better at, theoretically better at like surviving in a forest or something. I don't know, because my senses are going to keep me more aware of my surroundings and keep me alive, possibly. But in this functioning society, like we're just kind of these little oddballs that are kind of scrambling to fit in and survive. And it's like I have coped so much with this where it's like I don't think about this on a normal basis, but then it's kind of like, oh yeah, not everyone feels like this, and that's why everyone's totally fine with like that catastrophic thing happening right beside me. But yeah, and I'm also super jumpy. It's like, people like swat a fly and I jump to the moon. So I'm just a super jumpy person, and people are just like, wow, you're very jumpy. And it's like, I just am. I hear things more. I don't know. But with all of that, another aspect of it is our emotions are so much stronger and overwhelming at times. And so, I'm a very emotional person. And it's like, I cry when I'm happy, when I'm sad, when I need to pee, and when it's like literally a whole list of like crying. It's like we have like an explosion of expression with very mundane things, I suppose. And it's like I've matured where like I'm not just devastated that like I see a squished worm and stuff and like that kind of stuff. Because like as a child, I was just like, this is horrible. And so living in that kind of world, I was just kind of just in a cognitive dissonance the whole time. Like just kind of like, I don't understand why this feels so wrong, but nobody else is feeling it. And it was catastrophic for me because when I was a child and I was in kindergarten, and my most favorite thing was when we would have like a petting zoo, and they'd bring chickens and goats and all the cute things that, you know, we slaughter and all the cute things, and bring them when they're babies even, to kind of enrich us, and enrich us they did. And I fell in love with the petting zoo. And the animals and everything was just so lovely. But then it was that moment, and I remember it so clearly when I was sitting at the dinner table, and I had this confusion because I thought that I just couldn't imagine that it could be the same thing, you know? I thought that chicken and chicken were just different, very different things with the same word attached, you know, kind of how the English language does that sometimes. I never thought that we're monsters. But it turns out we were. And I don't remember how it happened, but I just made the click. It was like just a comment that my dad had made that just made all the little wiring in my little brain connect. And I realized, and I looked at my mother and I was like, wait, that's a actual... Where's the head and the feet and are those wings? And it was just, like my whole life just like ripped to shreds, and I just couldn't believe that this was so normal, and I felt so powerless and just a little poor sensitive little child that nobody understood that growing up, because my parents were just kind of like, but you're gonna die. And it's like, you have to, it's healthy. I was kind of rubbed and smeared into all of that. So I became a vegetarian. I didn't know what vegan was. I became a vegetarian and I thought I was gonna die. It's like, that's what I was told. And so like as a child, as this little kindergartner, I made a decision to end my life because I just couldn't live with this any longer. It's like, I have to be vegetarian, Mama. And then she's like, you're gonna die. And it's like, okay, I have accepted my fate. And I was like thinking about this, and I was like really thinking, I'm like, I'm just going to, just die out of a protein deficiency and I'm just going to die. And I just kind of like became a very ethical vegan, not for health, because I put my health on the line. And then it was not a straight to vegetarianism. I would have became vegan that day, but it was like my parents would force, and then in advance, everything was just so forced. And I grew up in a childhood where I felt like I was trying to be forced into a mold that I'd never fit into, and nor that I want to. And that goes in like my eating preferences and just kind of everything about me. I ended up being a black sheep, I suppose, but or a rainbow sheep, I don't know, but with a unicorn horn. But anyway, I just didn't fit in, and my parents just didn't understand me, and veganism was, a huge driving factor of that. So I couldn't really, as a kindergartner, I did not apparently have the authority to make decisions over my own, ethical morals, obviously, because I was a child and I didn't know any better. So I was just kind of forced to eat meat. And then, when I was in school, I would pick out the meat and like give it to my friend or like something in my sandwich. And it was just kind of like, I just really, 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 really wanted to just not. And I thought that was going to kill me, but I was okay with that. And then it was actually in 8th grade, I believe, And I finally had the audacity, because I think I had been secretly vegetarian for a while, but they just didn't really notice, because I guess they don't pay too much attention to me. And I just kind of, didn't eat the meat at the table for a while, and maybe put it in my plate, but put it back. And it's like, it kind of went off guard for a while. And I was vegetarian. Because who knew cupcakes were also evil? But yeah, so I became vegetarian. So I finally told my parents, I'm becoming vegetarian. There's really nothing you can do to stop me. And they're like, you're going to die. Like, they basically, at this point, I think they knew I wasn't going to die, but they thought I was going to suffer nutritionally. And they thought my health was going to, like, plummet. And they're like, gosh, like, we clearly haven't been able to fix you in every other way. So yeah, I guess we don't expect that we're gonna change this too. So it was like, boom, she's vegetarian, and they grumbled every time it just kind of came up and happened, and travel and whatnot. So I was vegetarian, and I thought I was doing my good, like a lot of vegetarians, and I was doing the good thing. And I wasn't I hated cheese. I mean, I always hated cheese and eggs, although there was a time when I tried to force myself to eat hard-boiled eggs, because my dad said, he's a cardiologist, okay? And he told me as a child that eggs were good for your heart and the cholesterol low. And it was like, I ate eggs, like hard-boiled eggs, because I thought it was like healthy. But they gave me heartburn. And I couldn't explain it. And I told my dad, I'm like, see, it happened again. It's like right here that hurts every time I eat the egg. And he's like, he looked a little concerned. And then he's like, no, you just don't know what you're talking about. And disregarded, because I'm the idiot child. But, yeah, that didn't really make any sense to me, how like he can eat, he's a cardiologist. You should just know better. But
actually, note, before I forget questions, so I was going to ask that first, from what I had heard, medical schools are funded by pharmaceutical companies, so a lot of doctors
that explains a lot.
Yeah, so a lot of doctors don't learn like holistic healing or like preventative medicine.
Strategic loopholes in the education system.
Yeah. And so people get more sick. People get sicker when they go to the doctor gives them a pill or says, here, put a stent in your heart, instead of changing your diet because you have like a clogged arteries or whatever, and you're going to have a heart attack. So then they just get that surgery done, and then they go about with their regular lifestyle, not changing their diet, even though diet was the thing that caused it. And then people just get that, like, you know what I mean? Like, pharmaceutical companies get money, doctors get money, the milk and dairy industries, the government gets money.
I know, okay, that is obvious.
Of us who we get sick. And so
you don't have to say it twice. It makes perfect sense. That's exactly something humanity would do.
Right, exactly. And that's why everyone benefits except the humans, like us. These companies are making money, and we are the people working at these companies, so that's how we pay our bills. It's just such a terrible cycle.
It's just such a terrible little, like, it's just,
I mean, I think What the Health or some of the other documentaries talk about it, so they were really interesting.
Yeah.
And
I really value you for making this podcast.
Thank you. So with your dad, like, being a cardiologist, did you ever find that, like, when he was trying to give you his opinion, he's like, I know better because I'm a doctor.
Yeah.
So what you're saying isn't valid. When you said you wanted to go vegetarian, like, how did that work? Because I feel like if my parents were doctors, I would have a much harder time going vegan, because they would go off of what they had learned in school, even if that was not preventative medicine, which is what we need to do.
Exactly. And that's exactly the story with me and my dad. We didn't see eye to eye on a lot of things, but this, he just knew otherwise. Like, he just knew, because it was ingrained in him. And it takes some, deviation to think outside the box and be like, well, what if it's all a lie? he was the database in the family. Like, it was always his say. I mean, everything in that house was his say, but that was just one of them because, you know, he's a doctor. It just obvious. It was just such a like, yeah, it was definitely a lot of pressure to go, fight for my right.
People would rather get a stent in their heart, get a surgery, pay like the money for it, get the surgery
Then
done,
change their diet.
change their diet. But also doctors probably might not tell them that that is an option.
Because they don't know. They don't know. So yeah, so then, okay, going back in whatever it was, I think it was 8th grade, I became it. And then I was going along that, you know, like many vegetarians, just kind of like, I'm doing it. I'm doing the things. But then it was in 10th grade. Like I said, I was not a cheese person, but I was having, I don't even know if I was having milk. I think I even had kind of almond milk, but I was having cottage cheese. For whatever reason, that was my love. You know, I wasn't even in really but then again, it's just all the stupidity. It's like, well, my bread wasn't vegan. And like, there's a lot of accidentally not vegan things. And then of course I was a horse rider. So like, everything's leather. I mean, our world is just surrounded, like tires are not vegan. I obviously wasn't ethically vegan, but then also I just like the byproducts. The byproducts is that's what like kills me. And then also with honey. And I know there's a lot of vegans who like kind of just say like, oh, you know, I'm vegan, but I do have honey. I don't know. Well, obviously with the dairy industry, it's like, well, when you really think about it, maybe there's a reason we're lacto intolerant. And like, well, if you really think about it, how come like cows aren't drinking human milk? And it's
why do we have lactate pills?
We don't have that. I wonder why. And it's like, we would never just go like drink from cow udders because that's barbarian. We're civilized. We just put them in factories and make cupcakes. But yeah, I mean, like, obviously when you think about it, I mean, I don't even understand how like people think this is normal, but there's like that side. But then even with the bees, like, okay, they make this gooey stuff that is, I don't know what it was. I think it's like essentially their throw up or something. And they need it to survive. It is their whole livelihood. They put these honeybees, they put their whole hearts and souls into this honey. And it's like literally all their life consists of. And it is like, I mean, it's what they drive. It's like what drives them in their life. It can make our coffee a little sweeter. It's like such a lame excuse. Like, it's like, but I just add a little honey and it tastes sweet and we like it. So we have it. And it's just kind of like, why do we have to like nearly kill them? And what's the word? Is it tranquilize them or something? Like, I don't know. Like,
they tranquilize them to get the honey? I'm not sure.
Yeah, they do tranquilize. I think that's the word. Because, oh gosh, I know this because I watched, I don't know if you'd watch this, Bearstein Bears.
Yeah, Oh, I love Bearstein Bears.
Okay, right, and they're bears. Yep. So honey, obviously. So like, it was like the grandpa, and this is a kid's show, okay?
Yeah.
This is a kid's show. So the grandpa is spraying the bees, all right? And he's like tranquilizing them, and they're all like falling and stuff. And he's like, all right, and then you just gotta spray this to calm them down. And it's like, looking back at that, like, I looked at that, I was like, that's not very nice. No. You shouldn't have done that. And then it's like, wait, but why do they have honey? And it was kind of like another one of those cognitive dissonances as a child. I'm like, but how's that okay, man? Don't do that. You're a grown man. You can't like drink baby cow's milk. It's just not for us, okay? And it's like, you can try to justify it and kind of tweak it to make you get the honey and get that little sweet tooth, but really, like, you're trying too hard and it shouldn't be that hard. Like, it's just not for us, and get over it. Not everything is for us.
And we have things like agave, date syrup, coconut syrup.
Exactly.
Brown
There's
rice
a lot
syrup.
of other sweet things. There is a
So
lot
many.
of other sweet things. You know, it's like, oh, but I like this one. Well, it's like, that's theirs. Okay? Get over it. Gosh, but yeah, so honey was the last thing, actually. I don't know if you've heard of Freely the Banana Girl.
Yes, follow her a lot. Yeah, I followed her.
Like, who doesn't know about her? So I was a real YouTuber as a 10th grader. I'd watch YouTube a lot, and well, lo and behold, Freely the Banana Girl showed up, and she exposed the dairy industry, and she's like this and that and puss, and you know how she is. She's a lot, right? And I mean, it's like either you love her or you hate her. I loved her, and I was like, oh my gosh. And then I was watching all her videos and watching her do squats and whatnot while she's like eating and just Freely videos. But yeah, it was actually Freely who exposed the dairy industry to me. It was always kind of like that confusion mark for me. It was like, I changed to, I don't know what it was, soy milk or almond milk or something, just because something felt off. And I don't know, it was kind of like, I lived with this kind of I'm a little suspicious of that, because it's another one of those things in my life where it's all normal, but it doesn't feel right to me. But everyone's saying it's normal, and usually when that happens, it's not right. And so I just kind of I'm just gonna start making little changes, but I don't really want to I guess it was almost like I don't really want to know, because it would be kind of too painful to know that, you know, humanity did another thing that's all normal and working normally and functioning in society, because that would be another one of those things. And I've already got so many on my conscious that are just eating at me every day. Right. And then it was finally when that Freely video, and I was like, okay, who am I to just quietly, make it? It's I'm going to make a very loud decision here. And then I became vegan and stomped my foot, and my parents were like, she's lost it. But yeah, I mean, at that point I knew that this is not actually going to kill me. It's actually good for your health.
So when you became vegan,
right,
what kind of foods did you start putting into your diet that you weren't already eating? What were you switching over, taking out the cottage cheese and other things? But
right, so the cottage cheese had to go, and obviously the honey had to go, and really it was about changing the breads, because as at that age group, I ate a lot of bread, and my bread was not vegan. So it was just finding a vegan bread and stopping the honey. And since it's a really different story for people who love cheese. I always thought cheese was just nasty, except for cottage cheese. And that was hard. And I didn't really need a replacement, just because once you kind of knew, it just didn't taste good anymore. It was kind of that's gross. And so everything that was just kind of cruelty became just kind of gross. And I know that's not a situation for many vegans, and many vegans need a transitional phase, and need all these kinds of things, and need constant encouragement, and that's fine. And everyone needs to get and receive what they need, because everybody's needs are a little bit different, because everyone comes from somewhere really different. For somebody that fast food, burgers and whatnot is such a staple in their life, and they grew up around that, and that revolves around social life and that kind of thing. The sad thing about these really unfortunate ways that the society works is that it takes a lot of undoing. And sometimes when so much doing has been stacked on top of each other, it's just a lot of undoing that can get a little tangled. And it's a little harder for some people that have a lot of knots tied up. And so when you have that kind of thing, it's super, super insightful to plant-based recipes and stuff that are substitutes I don't know, corn dogs and chicken nuggets and all these things. But for me, I personally didn't have that experience because all those things were just disgusting to me, and I'd never want anything to replicate them, or else I will not eat them. So it's kind of like me, it was more of an explosion, whereas other people need that support of like a bridge, which is so easy to do. You know, nowadays when there's just little vegan versions of literally everything. I mean, cheesecake and you name it, all the kinds of cheeses, like the cream cheese and the mozzarella and I don't know all the cheeses because I never was a cheese person. But I don't know, there might even be, lo and behold, that awful string cheese thing. Like, why was that a thing? Just because you could peel them? Like, children only liked it in the snack box because you could peel them and you wouldn't eat them. You eat the pretzels. But anyway, I never liked cheese. But there's just so many substitutes nowadays for literally every taste preference, and it's fabulous.
I feel like vegans are kind of divided when it comes to fake meats, because some of them, they're like, why would I ever want anything to replicate the taste of an animal?
Right, that's kind of my case.
Meaty texture. And other people are like, no, I like that kind of meaty texture, but I just don't want it to be me eating dead animals. So I feel like there's that divide. I've talked to half the people who have one view and the other half have that other view, other perspective.
There's just all sorts of taste preferences, and then as we start bridging into why I became vegan, raw vegan, okay.
Yes.
So my raw veganism was kind of like a in-out at first. First I became raw vegan actually in 11th grade, I believe. Always a taste thing. Like I just got really, really fruity one summer, and I was just eating papayas like a mad person. I don't know. So it was that. And then also there was like another kind of intermeshed thing where I was trying to like literally look for anything that would, because as a child, I don't know, like a late high school years, I had the worst cystic acne imaginable. My dad had it. My sister went through Accutane. And it was like one of those genetic things. I feel like acne is one of those things that you can genetically be predisposed to have that reaction, but that reaction is almost always for something else. And it could have been, you know, years of having like meat and dairy. I'm not saying it was, but it could have been. And it very likely could have been because, you know, shoving things that don't belong in your body for years and years can, you know, maybe cause, you know, cysts to erupt over your face. That seems very plausible to me. I don't know what it was, but I had terrible cystic acne, and I was trying to do anything and everything to like fix it because I had a really bad self-confidence due to trichotillomania and other stuff, which is like a whole nother like rumble tumble story. But I'll try to stick to one story. But basically, trichotillomania, side note, is a hair pulling out disorder, which kind of ruined my self-confidence. But I didn't have a high self-confidence and I had acne, so I was trying to get rid of it. And then, you know, you read all sorts of stupid stuff like you can't have like this and this, and you can't eat anything red. And like, who knows? So like I was like doing some dishy-dashy dodging of like, I'm not allowed to have like tomatoes or something. I don't know. It was dumb. But I ended up trying raw veganism for that. I think I was hooked because I started craving sweet potatoes. And then it turned out that this whole little rumble tumble of like raw veganism wasn't clearing my skin. So I had those damn sweet potatoes. And it was great, the purple ones. But then I did become raw vegan just because papayas. And I just wanted to eat nothing but papayas. And so then I was raw vegan for a while. And then my dad was forcing me to get a vegan nutritionist, and the vegan nutritionist was like, you need beans. So once again, my dad was making decisions for my own personal choices and preferences. And so he made me get this vegan nutritionist in university years. And so she was like, you need beans. And I was like, damn it. And I had beans. And so I would have to have like a serving of beans or like a serving of grain, preferably both. And it was kind of like, darn it. And it was just like, I had to swallow it and just kind of take it as it is. And I just tried to like
Question, when you talk to a vegan nutritionist, do they have raw vegan nutritionists, or do
They
these?
totally do. They're just a
Oh.
little bit more rare. And my dad wouldn't let me choose that one. She came from an eating disorder
Mhm.
background, and she didn't want me to do anything that was too pure.
Mhm.
So it was like she wanted me to like, she's like, now you have to have the pasta. I'm like, I don't want to have the pasta. And she's like, you need to get over your fear. She was basically convinced that I was anorexic because I was so skinny.
'Cause,
So
like,
she was
sometimes
basically
people-
trying to get me, she was trying to get me over food fears because she was convinced that I was orthorexic. And so she was just kind of, we just rubbed in ways that were not nice. But she was kind of irritating, and she actually thought that I should, quite honestly, just stay in bed and not do any physical exercise because basically I need to live a life of doom for the next few months because I'm too skinny. That's not how I float my boat. So yeah, I just kind of left her eventually. And I think I gave her the excuse of like, I have gone to a medical clinic and therefore I will not need your assistance anymore. And really, I just like ditched all nutritionists. But if you were fat and you said you just had a taste preference, then I'd help you lose weight and we wouldn't have pasta. But since you're skinny, you need to get over your food fear. And it was like that irritating of like I mean, I've always been a very skinny person. And it's like people just automatically assume that you're anorexic, and it's annoying. But yeah, so it's just kind of one of those skinny girl problems again. So that happened in that situation. Now I was basically forced into this whole like bean thing. And so I forced myself to have beans, and I did love squash, and I would cook squash, and I loved that. So that was one. And I did love sweet potatoes. So there were two things that I did love. So it wasn't all bad, but I just hated beans, man. I just, I didn't chive with them. And actually, I'm so sorry, but I never liked tofu. Also, raw veganism for me was never a law doctrine. Where it was like, it has to be raw and it has to be under this many degrees, and we got to get this dehydrator and make fake cooked food. No, I'm not a dehydrated person. And I literally, it's like, I like food as food is. It's like, so what bridged me to become raw veganism was firstly, my taste buds. My taste buds were just kind of like, you know what? I just want to have food all day long. Thank you very much. One summer, I just kind of stopped that whole like bean game of like, oh, I have to eat beans because I'm skinny. And then like, it wasn't really doing anything actually. I'm like, in winter, I'll probably go back to my sweet potatoes and squash, and with the squash season and the warm, quote unquote, comfort foods. But for some reason, my body was still craving that like super cold, frozen, cold fruit, and I don't know. There was this summer when I went to Oregon, and I fell in love with the Oregonian melons. Okay, and it gets to the point where it kind of makes you have to maybe, I don't know, sometimes make an investment to hoard all of the melons in the summer when they're in season, so you can stock up on melons to last you for the whole year. And I may or may not have experienced that sort of fever in my life. So I'm not saying I do, but it may be that my house looks like a storage unit of melons, and that's the part of Instagram that you don't see because I don't post it, because it'd be really distracting, because that's bad for my business. But yeah, so that's an evacuation. I was going to get those cantaloupes because I knew they're ripe, and I put my hearty soul investment in them.
Don't they like spoil if you stock them that much in advance though?
Oh yeah, no, I have reworked that whole, issue. I have to look for the ripest melons, then put them in the fridge and blah blah. And it's like, I don't know what I'm gonna do when the weather gets hot, because like I am using my outdoors as a refrigerator right now, because I have a big like hold up of ripies. But as I have experienced in my life, I'm a pretty convincing person, and I may or may not have convinced my grocery store to store 50-ish boxes of melons, and
Are these like
Yeah.
honeydew, cantaloupe? Like what kind of melon?
Okay, cantaloupes, it depends on the thing. The Oregonian cantaloupes, they're goners already. I have normal cantaloupes right now in my storage unit. Okay, so I have that, and then I have one really glorious and precious snow leopard melon, and they last like forever. So I am not opening that sucker until it's like, oh yeah, and another thing, melons, if they're moldy on the outside, they can be jewels on the inside. And another thing about fruit is like I'm super like I need it to be as ripe as like other people would consider it bad,
Yeah.
but it's not. It's perfect. So yeah, so basically this time I have honeydew mostly because they're hardy, and then I have a few jewels of like Pielo of Sapo, one snow leopard melon, and yeah, I think that's it. What happens is when you're raw vegan, obviously you have to eat more stuff, and it's like it takes more belly space. And it was like the thought, it became heartbreaking to me. This is how you know things are getting a little offhand. So that and lettuce. I'm a crazy person. I eat like half and half almost melons and lettuce. So like a crazy amount of lettuce. Like it's like unimaginable. I blend it up and make a what I consider grub. I don't know. I have it for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. It's like
What's in it?
it's
Is it just
basically
raw lettuce
it's
and-
basically lettuce blended. Literally just lettuce
and it's like
blended.
chunky?
No. It is a whole like pudding. Basically, yeah. I basically have, and then I freeze it, and then I blend it, and that I know you use them too. I, kind of looked at your amazing nice cream videos earlier, and it's like I use a NutriBullet instead of with bananas. I use lettuce and
Does lettuce
only lettuce.
creamy when it's frozen and blended?
Yeah, no, I don't actually freeze it. So I'll blend it normal, and then I'll put that cup in the freezer, and then after a little while I blend it again. And then I have it so perfected. It's like an art now. It's ridiculous. I will get
Stuff. I would like to see that.
Yeah, but the only thing is like
But it
it
would
takes
distract from your
technique.
main page then, I guess.
No, yeah, that too. And also it takes a lot of technique. And also another thing I do is I freeze, instead of bananas, I freeze cucumbers. And I add frozen cucumbers, and it makes beautiful mousse. And if you add like stevia powder and like freeze dried strawberry powder and like that kind of stuff, like it is delicious, and I love
Frozen
it. And
cucumber
nobody does
pops
it
up
because
nicely in the blender.
it takes a lot of skill, and I have that skill because I do it, a million times every day. But like if I were to just post a recipe, people would be like, it doesn't work. And it's kind of like you have to like learn, like just kind of have to do it, and you have to like feel for it. And I made it up, so like I'm kind of like the only person who knows how to do it. And if I give you an instructor, you'd kind of just like destroy your blender, because that has happened multiple occasions. There's like dessert grub, and then there's like super dense dark green spirulina, all the dark things. Because Freely the Banana Girl inspired me. You know what my top banana load is? Because I used to be that girl who would bring, like 6 bananas for lunch or whatever.
Yep.
And I kid you not, I was once that girl who, well, there's also a phase where I brought melons to school, and that was my lunch. Like melons, and I'd be slicing them. I mean, I was that weird child. I'd bring knives and like cut jicamas. But anyway, and they're like, you can't bring knives into the school. And it's like, watch me. And I'm like peeling the jicama slowly, looking at the teacher in the eye, and I'm like,
You eat the
"Watch
jicama
me." But
raw?
anyway,
Is it chewable?
Yes.
I think I've tried to.
I only eat them raw. Raw, it tastes much better.
Raw vegan, but yeah.
Yeah, like it tastes so much better raw. It tastes
I got
so sweet,
one,
Yeah, it's always been a taste preference. Like I don't really like things cooked, and even when I did eat cooked things, it would have to be like cooked for 2 seconds, and then I didn't like it. So it was like I had to like really be careful. I would just like steam things because I don't know how to do anything.
So I got a jicama years ago, and I remember that at the time I didn't know what to do with it, so I tried to cook it like a potato. But I guess you can eat it raw.
You could. Yeah, you could do both ways. I literally was a child at one point when I was in my track days, and I was like a super, pro runner. I would bring literally that box of Medjool dates, like that box
Oh,
that
my
comes in.
favorite.
Yeah. No, but we eat the whole thing, and only
So
that.
good. So good.
I know, right? So I would have that. But anyway, my banana count is, I think it was like 2021, which
20,
is pretty good.
20
Yeah.
21 bananas a day.
Yeah, I did that
Nice.
because I went through this real banana crazy phase, and that was another one of my accidentally raw vegan phases where I just had too many.
Bananas
Oh yeah,
a day.
I had that many bananas plus a whole papaya, mind you.
Wow.
Like literally, I can eat like there's no manana. But I tried it out because I was like, after this whole like losing 10, 15 pounds after evacuation, it's like, okay, how many calories am I actually getting? Because it's not really working. And I look and I'm like, well over 3,000. I'm like, it's not working. And so in like college, I have like the sweet potato in my lap and I'm like eating, and oh my goodness. For lunch, since it was at my lunchtime, this college class, I would literally bring, and this, I mean, those students must have been just like hating my guts. Like maybe that's why I didn't have any friends. But I brought one entire big head of romaine lettuce, and I would eat that crunchy, loud stuff in an echoey, silent room. And artistry, and I would bring not like chopped up little carrots, but the big long carrots, and I would crunch that, and I would eat a whole zucchini, and crunch that, and I would have a whole bell pepper and crunch that, and it's like that crunching noise drives people insane, but it's like, okay, look, humans need food for fuel.
So I wanted to ask you, like, when you were raw vegan, now it's been, how long has it been since you went raw?
I don't know, like 2-3 years, 2 years probably.
And then you kind of have like the main consistent parts of your diet, like the lettuce, the cucumbers, the bananas, dates.
Yeah. Well, I don't have that stuff anymore.
Are nuts are included, right?
Yes, but I don't like nuts.
Okay. And then like sprouts.
Oh, actually, I'm not even sure what the rules, honestly. I really don't care and know.
Yeah.
Those stuff don't apply to me. I think there's some raw vegans who are like, oh my gosh, nuts, no. And then other vegans, I don't know. It's just kind of dumbness.
Yeah.
Like, I don't really know. Like, I don't like nuts, so I don't eat them. And that's that. I am now raw vegan, and it's been like 2.5 years. And yeah, I don't know. It's never been like a real, like, kind of doctrine, sort of like I do it for this and this reason. I can't really say it's like help this and this and this, and I honestly don't really believe it's like healthier or better than cooked food. I think you can, quite honestly, I mean, I don't know, but I think you could be honestly like quite equally healthy either or ways, and equally like unhealthy either or way. It's just kind of like how balanced your diet is and how many like nutrients you're getting. So I never really like cared or did much into that. Actually, the whole how veganism really kind of influences my career and what I decided to do with my life is obviously, I mean, more of what started it in the first place. It was just kind of that empathetic nature that I've always just been really grounded in. And it's just like, I just care too much to not do anything. And I just really, really knew from a young age that what I wanted to do with my life was basically just save the planet and save these beautiful animals. And I think like we all have our special calling, and we can all contribute in different ways. It's like some people, and another thing with like veganism, it's like some people are really amazing and it's their calling to do the activism and really be in front of people's faces, go out there, go to those slaughterhouses, save animals, and like just kind of be in front of society's face. And as much as I would feel so valued to do something like that, I just don't think I have like the emotional strength to do something like that. Because, okay, so sidetrack, when I was in 10th grade and when I was considering going, just like avoiding dairy, it just was like something that was starting to feel wrong to me. No real rhyme or reason to it. I was walking down the hallway in high school, and these kind of things kind of happen to me as a highly sensitive person where emotions just kind of go very deep. And I just kind of thought of like abused animals, and for whatever reason I was thinking of really badly abused cows in a slaughterhouse, looking out at like, the dim, like, just like a overbearing kind of like window kind of haze, like glare, like kind of pouring into the dark lit room, and just being in a line. And like, I don't know, it was kind of like very clear and unclear at the same time, but I basically kind of feel I was imagining a dairy farm, and like how all the cows are like in a row, like kind of locked, chained into place to like produce. And I didn't really know what I was thinking and what I was feeling, because I don't know, it's just more of a feeling than I know exactly what this logically means. But I just started crying, and I just like just got really emotionally overbeared and thought that because something felt really wrong, and it like literally nothing had to do with dairy at that very moment. Like I didn't even have dairy for lunch, like literally. It was just some random, like I was walking to history and I just kind of collapsed in the hallway because like something was wrong, and people are like, what is wrong with her? And I'm like, I don't know, okay, I'm going to the bathroom. I don't know, just like one of those moments for me. I mean, the whole reason I came to Oregon is because I had a brilliant idea one morning during ballet. I don't know, my life kind of works in this patterns of just kind of like I know before I really know why. And that was when I just kind of found that Freely video. I watched Freely videos, but I was just like, what if I type in cows? And then that came up. And so it's like, exposed. Yeah, so it was like an intuitive something that drove me. And another intuitive something is that I really, really need to save animals. Like that's just something I gotta do. Art was also just another one of those things. Like it was just like it really hurts me to go through phases of my life and not be able to paint for a few days, or like traveling and not be able to paint for whatever reasons, like too much schoolwork, too much this, too much that. Like, or actually, side note, I'm painting right now.
Nice.
I'm painting right now. I've been painting a moon this whole time.
But like you can talk and like concentrate because you're not really thinking about it. When you said your hand is kind of.
I'm not thinking about anything. If I think about it, then things like start getting confusing, and I don't like that. So I literally don't think I can be talking. I generally talk on the phone or listen to podcasts or do whatever while I'm painting. So right now I don't know, painting craters of a moon. If I look closely, I haven't been paying attention in a while, but craters. I'm painting craters, okay? And I may or may not have stuck a whole bunch of ones shaped as heart. I've just always been a very intuitive person. And I knew these two things were very fundamental to who I am and what I'm capable of doing. I feel like we all have these gifts. Some people are super, super mentally stable and strong, and they can, fight for change and really just do a lot of good. But if I were to try to mold myself and make myself fit into that, I just wouldn't make as much change possible, because that's not the kind of change that I was meant to do, rewarded, and it'd be such a rewarding experience. That's not what I do best. And I feel like if we all use our strengths, we're going to move this together. And if we all try to do one thing, that's not what's going to win the ultimate change. It's like we all play these, and string our way into this overall tapestry that will one day be our vision of what we want the world to be like. And if we all just kind of weave through in our own way, then that's how it's possible to finish the tapestry. It's not everybody working on one color or, that kind of thing. It takes a lot of different interworking. Some people may be so talented and wonderful speaking and, with outreach and starting podcasts, and other people do best without words. And other people can't speak very well, but they can write. And it's like everyone's doing these different things and helping in different ways. Some people are really helping animals activism. Other people are really helping with the environment. We can't all do everything. We all need to work together. And other people are just like reworking society and making, racism, attacking different things that all need to come together in the end. Not like one thing is going to fix the world. It's like all the things. And if we all do that at the same time, we're going to get there sooner. And we don't have a lot of time. We don't have a lot of time to play with and bank with. So I think it's really important to just kind of focus to what your, that little Pocahontas saying, like, just do what your heart is telling you to do, really rings true. At least it has in my life. So I knew I could really, for some reason, paint. I don't know why. My hand just swishes and it does good things. And I'm afraid that tomorrow I'll forget the thing that I never knew how I could do. And then I don't like going into that. It's confusing, and that's confusing. I don't like thinking about it. But, I'm trying to build a living around something that I literally have no idea if it'll be still there in 5 minutes. But I don't know, it keeps on proving me right and showing up. So I knew I could accidentally do art for whatever reason. And the only thing that I really, really the things that I just come up with my brain on a normal mundane life, day to day, are just so profoundly strange. And then I think everything happens for a reason. So it's I was thinking of painting ideas, because I have a million paintings that are dancing in my head and I want to make them. I literally have hundreds, but it's whichever one is screaming loudest as the other one finishes, that's the one I'll choose. And I might even come back to some of these ideas years later. I can hold on to an idea for 5 years and then oh, now it is the time to paint it. But that's kind of how my creative process works. They're prophecies, they're visions that come to me. But anyway, so I was doing dishes, and this is a painting that's going to be in the future. But normal people don't think about this kind of stuff when they're doing dishes. They think more about I don't know, more human things. But I am not a very not a typical average bear. So this one day when I was doing dishes, I was thinking of orangutans. And I didn't really know much about orangutans. I wasn't sure if they were quite endangered or whatever. I had to do some Googling and figure out what they are. Turns out they're apes, not monkeys. And I didn't really know much about them. I just knew they were orange and monkey-like and orange gorillas in my mind. But I just had this really profound orangutan moment, and I just thought about them burning, just burning orangutans in a forest. And I was what in the world is this? And I looked it up, and basically with this palm oil that is very, very accidentally common and accidentally in a whole bunch of really random things like skincare and a lot of cooking, a lot of some cultures, I don't know which ones, but have been used palm oil more frequently, and it is frequently used. This palm oil is related to orangutans because the orangutans only live, I believe, in 2 forests, and one of them, there's 2 different kinds of orangutans, And the most like critically endangered, I think, is like, don't quote me on this, but I think it's like the Borneo forest or something, and it's in Malaysia, I believe. Their environment is like very, very like it's like they've only got like literally one forest, and half of that forest is already like obviously gone because like we devastated it. Obviously, darn humans. Yeah, so they're basically living in this like little sliver of unprotected land. We keep on taking bigger chunks of this in pieces for palm oil plantations, because in Indonesia, that's their biggest like economic, they're, you know, not a very stable, their economy is not very stable, and like the biggest driving factor is palm oil. It's like the biggest business they have. Obviously, humans use, you know, for monetary wealth, they kind of disregard like the needs and lives of animals. So they use a technique to clear the forests called slash and burn. And I think it's technically illegal in some areas, but basically they slash it and they burn it. It's exactly what it sounds like. And they literally burn orangutans alive in the one last place that they can go home. I'm on so many email news subscriptions of orangutan rescue centers, and it's just so devastating to see the burnt orangutans and see like another one being like brought to the center, and it's like, we just brought like, you know, Sammy, and he doesn't have an arm, but he's like a really strong boy. And it's just so devastating because they literally actually just burn, you know? Like, it's also like so awful to me because the whole forest fire experience, and I know how traumatizing it is. That's what happens to these orangutans. So I have plans of painting an orangutan surrounded by a burnt forest, planting a seed that he'll know, like, he won't get to live in. Like, his home was taken away, but he's planting a seed for the future orangutans because one day they'll have a home too. And I don't know, it's so sad. Like, oh, golly, I paint a lot of sad paintings these days. Yeah, I don't know. I just come up with these really very detailed, obvious like ideas on accident. Like the cow thing. Like I just was crying about cows and I didn't even know why. It's just like I was crying about orangutans. I didn't know why. I was thinking about fires. I don't know why. And I looked it up, and it's like, now I know why. Yeah, just go with the flow. But yeah, so just being such an intuitive person. And I'm not quite sure exactly where this is going because I just started in the summer and I'm really new. But my glorious, sparkly plan is something that's just been becoming more clear and more clear as I've grown older, but it's always kind of rooted back to that very moment where I declared, didn't wish, I declared that I was going to be an artist and I was going to save animals, because it was just, it's fact. It's just fact. I just knew.
Wait, so and like, where do you get to sell your paintings?
I sell my painting with this pandemic and stuff. The whole gallery industry has closed, and it shifted like the art market into online space, which is super, super convenient because you know why? We don't have to deal with commission charges. You know, like galleries will take like half of your profit. We don't have to do that anymore. Like, we're not a part of their system. So now I sell all of my work online. So online, I have my home website, which is Silver Key Creations. And then I do my marketing by having an Instagram, having a Facebook. I need to get better at Facebook. I kind of don't like it that much. And I'm in the process right now of like starting a Pinterest, and I'm even thinking about opening an Etsy store too for certain items. But just really kind of linking yourself everywhere, because it's really hard to like kind of like sit in your house and then be like, all right, I can put it on the internet, so now I'm going to be a real artist. It's like you really have to market yourself and get the word out. So that's what I'm just now starting to do. And for like cheaper items, I'm now creating. Recently, I had this epiphany to create these dried flower creations, and so those are so Etsy and Pinterest friendly. So that's my current.
Oh, I saw those on your page.
Yes, those are a thing, and it's like on a page on my website. Basically, I'm gonna put those suckers on Pinterest, then I'm gonna put those in Etsy, and basically Etsy is just another way to get more people to learn about me, and then the first time they might buy on Etsy, but then they can just buy directly from me, you know? It's kind of like linking out, like with the online world, it's about linking out in all the places, because you never know who's gonna just happen to hop on the place and who happens to care. And one happy accident, so like my striving mission, my whole career, I launched my business. My business is called Silver Key Creations, and I sell my original paintings, but not often, because my original paintings take like 150 hours to paint, and I pay myself like a measly 20 an hour wage, but they still end up being quite bonkers expensive just because I spend a lot of life. And so those, they sell once in a blue moon, but they're there. And then what my main big sellers have been my print reproductions that are all vegan. And so I sell my paintings, so like my painting on either different kinds of piece of papers, which you can frame, or if you want to like have a higher budget, you can get like canvas reproductions. It looks exactly like that same painting. It's on a canvas, except it is not the actual original. It is printed with archival inks. So you get my painting and it looks like my painting, but you don't have to pay that price. And so you can get it on canvas. You can even get it on wood. And then you can also get it on metal, which is like my favorite because it's all shiny and it looks really cool. And the colors are really vibrant, and vibrant colors are my livelihood. So you can do that. And then recently I've just been expanding. So now I also sell puzzles, and you can get my paintings on puzzles. I also do, the typical greeting cards. So I have my share and care cards. It's like you share animals for caring for animals, because the whole sole purpose behind my business is to raise money for animal organizations. So what I do is, because I can't pick one, I pick an organization per month, and I dedicate percent of my profit to that organization, and I educate my audience about that organization. So right now I'm painting polar bears. It's called Arctic Lullaby, and it's a mother and a baby cub huddled, sleeping. It's a spirit animal, so they're transparent. They're sleeping in the stars of a winter sky because they no longer have their winter home to call home, and they have to live among the stars because their polar Arctic world is gone, and it's water now because we messed up badly. And so now they're just spirits living, and it's like they're spirit animals. They're huddled, they're sleeping, and then right behind them is a big full moon. So the full moon is like shining through them, and they're in like a starry night sky, and they have no winter Arctic home, and it's beautiful and it's heartbreaking. I pick an organization, and then I support it and like promote it for that month and make everybody just like love polar bears, because why not? And that's what I do. And then the next month, whatever, organization is speaking loudest to me, that's what I do. So like when I was painting tigers, because I have this painting where it's a mother saying goodbye to the baby cub. That is called farewell. It is a mother, spirit mother, saying goodbye to the alive baby, because she'll no longer get the opportunity to raise that baby as their own, because she was turned into a carpet. If you look in the bottom right corner, there's flowers blooming from a tiger pelt, because that is what is the result of her existence on the planet. She was turned into a carpet, so she can no longer have the experience of raising her young. And so it's this moment of farewell where she's saying goodbye, because she has to part with the baby, because she's no longer going to be on the earthly plane, because she's a carpet now. And so, needless to say, I was focusing on tigers for that few months. But yeah, no, it's whatever's calling loudest to me, and I'm very intuitive based, so I don't really plan this. It's like whatever's screaming loudest in my brain at the moment. So I raise proceeds to go to that organization, and that is what I do. I create animals because that is what I'm passionate about. So I paint animals not as they exist in our perception. So when you look at my art, an animal, it looks really, really realistic. And it's very, very detailed. But a lot of the details are details I made up, and an actual bear doesn't even have that much detail. But I just add this hyper detail. But then when you look at it, it doesn't look real. It looks like some sort of fantasy, or some sort of but you don't know how to word it, because it's so real, but it's not on this planet. And basically, as we perceive this world, we don't perceive it as an accurate documentation of what is actually there. We perceive it for what we perceive it to be. If we're somebody who really loves flowers, flowers look so beautiful and so vibrant, and the whole world lights up when you see that red rose, and you see the dewdrops and elegant curves, and it's the most beautiful thing. And in your vision, it is the only important thing in that whole space, and it's glowing, and it's glorious, and everything else kind of subdues, and you're just focusing on that. That's what my paintings are like. It's how you perceive. When we look at someone's face, you'll notice that you may think someone's just kind of average looking, but as you get to know them and you get to love them, they become so beautiful. People either look like a stranger or they look like a friend. And when you get that friend, they become more beautiful because they're a more beautiful person to you. So basically, we experience the world by how we experience it. It's all kind of our mind controls our world. And if we believe a certain thing, it is. This is what animals look like to me. They look like fabulous unicorns all the time. Through painting these kind of exaggeratedly beautiful animals, and sometimes with heartbreaking stories, it changes people in different ways. Then people start kind of caring too. And it's everybody needs a different kind that. This is what I'm good at. This is what I'm passionate about. Some people need to see the ugly. Some people need to see brutal guts and flesh and that kind of stuff. With promoting veganism, you get I don't know, I have to unfollow those vegans who are posting videos of police throwing pig heads and that kind of craziness, because that'll ruin my month. And for some people, that kind of thing, that kind of blatant screaming at you awful is what they need to make the change. So you have to have all these different kinds of seeds of change so we can grow this garden together. And different plants need different nutrients, and that's how people are. Nobody's the same. Honestly, a lot of meat eaters, they see the bad thing, they look away, and they're I'm not going to think about that because that stresses me out, and I'd rather think of cupcakes. Yeah, so that kind of stuff is really important for shifting some people for change, but other people are more delicate flowers and need other nutrients. Some, need a blaring hot sunshine, and others just need some shade. I guess I'm just kind of attuning to those people who just need some shade. even though I love myself some sunshine. Yeah, so that's what I do. I just kind of like kindly urge and at the same time make a difference. It's not all just fluffy unicorns. I'm actually making a difference in the way that I can. So I sell my reproductions, my prints, and any material to fit, your preferences and your budget and what feels good to you. And then I also do these smaller fun things like puzzles and greeting cards. I'm still thinking about other merchandise. I can do like phone cases and that kind of stuff. A lot of these things, it's hard to find vegan production companies.
Yeah.
And now I'm also creating these handmade dried flower assortments. They come in this bowl. It's like a wall hanging that is beautiful, and they're very joyful to work with. But that's another thing. Yes, they're on my website. They're called my flower creations, or floral creations. That is the last and newest thing that I've been working on. And then another thing that I'm working on in the background is I'm making a coloring book. And it's going to have like my painting beside the coloring page of my painting. So I'm in the works of it. And right now, as we speak, I am actually doing virtual course for this elementary school in Texas. And so what I'm doing is I'm making them their art curriculum, and I make videos, which I share with them, and they pay me like for the video, and I create the video, and it's their art lesson. And so right now I'm actually making a course that I'm going to resell as well. So I'll have like art instruction courses, and I also am working on creating, I also really want to do a podcast, but I'm making like a membership for positivity, because I am just a super ridiculously positive person, and I've gone through a lot of really damaging and difficult things, but every difficult thing has been a gift, and it's like really brought something to my life that I'm so grateful for, and I would never undo, like all the hardships, they're really just presents, and you have to unwrap them, and it's painful, but they make you so much stronger and so much better and so much like diverse. And so I'm a very positive person. I can be going through a whirlwind, which has happened several times in my life, and kind of seem devastating, but every single time I go to sleep, I think my life is such a beautiful fairy tale, and I'd never live any differently. And it's like the world can collapse around me, but it's still a fairy tale to me, because that's my perceived reality. But a lot of people can't see that, and like sometimes they feel really sad. And I know, like, I don't know, my sadness doesn't last very long, because I'm a very positive person, and I just like change it and make it my own pretty fairy tale. I think I'd be really, really devastated for like, I can't go more than an hour. It's just too exhausting. And I find something, positive, like it never lasts like that long. You just have to believe in the rainbow before you see it. And so that kind of like mindset of like looking at the situation from above and kind of thinking like, oh, you poor little beautiful soul, you're in a hard place right now. I'm going to find a way to find the light and find yourself out of it, So if I can help people with that, so I'm making like a membership, like I'm thinking how I'm going to do it, maybe podcast, maybe also consulting just other people, because I love to talk to other people. No, I don't have like a psychology degree and all these good things, but some things are just innate, and sometimes just talking to another person can make someone's day really feel better. I'm that friend, that go-to friend that's always like, help me make this seem beautiful, and I make it seem beautiful. But so that's another thing I'm working on. It's going to be like a membership, a positivity kind of group. I actually kind of secretly started. You can join the testing. Awesome. Yeah, it's called the Flutter Flock. I'll send you the positivity email, and it has like, you fill in a little survey about like what's relevant to you and in your life. It's really just kind of a really personal, like, let's have a friendship to help pick each other up type of thing. So I'm going into topics that are really have really changed and brought a lot of good into my life, and generally are hardships. So like, I don't know, like the pandemic and learning to rekindle human connection and why it's so important to us, and how we really so miss the normal interactions of hugging somebody, and how all these precious things, like, you know, are just been taken away, and people are finding a hard time coping with the thing they didn't know they needed. The best place to find me is obviously my website, and you join my newsletter. That way you stay updated to all the random popcorn ideas that I end up happening and, you know, launching. But my biggest social is definitely Instagram. I've really worked to put a lot of effort into that, and DMs there get answered, and I post, you know, progress pictures of what I'm working on. I post time-lapse videos, I do live videos, just all the things.
I realized you have, is it a conure bird?
Kiwi, my darling. So that's why I can't talk during the day, because if she hears another person, like, she starts getting jealous. So she is, my little beautiful little green pterodactyl is sleeping right now, and she is a handful in a teeny tiny little cute package, but she screams okay. Yeah, and she actually draws blood from strangers. So like, beware of the cute little pterodactyl. She's out and about. She loves watching me paint. She's got the biggest personality. So I have her, and I have my horse, Kenai. I got him in Texas. We were a package deal. We went to Connecticut, and then we went to Oregon, and he is with me. He lives 15 minutes away. So I have to pay a monthly board fee, and he's living there in a beautiful pasture with about, I don't know, like 12 other horses. And he loves this barn. It's called Sweet Rose Barn. You see, Sweet Rose Stables. When I had the intuition to come to Ashland, Oregon, my thought was, I'm gonna go to Ashland, Oregon. I bet there's roses there. And so I end up in this like rose-themed barn. Like, I don't know, my intuition is strange sometimes, but yeah, it's a beautiful place. And so I have a horse and a bird. But we have free sales. Like, it's just like a bunch of free stuff in front of people's houses, good stuff. Like organic produce from their gardens, because they have an abundance, and so they share with the community. And it's like, it's just such a sharing, beautiful place that everybody does it. It is so normal. And so like during the summer, I would like come, and I became the melon Santa Claus, and people knew me as the girl who would drop a melon, ding dong ditch, and run. Because it brought me joy, and I've just like brought people melons. But I don't know, that's just like normal behavior around here. It's like, I will get flowers and like stick them on someone's handle, like a stranger's door handle, and then just walk away, and people will see the flowers, and they're like, oh, that's like exactly something that would happen around here. And you know what we did? We tied ribbons around the burnt trees, and we tied like little bows on like stop signs and stuff, like all throughout the neighborhood. Like, you came back when like it became a livable situation, we could come back. People tied ribbons around like posts and stuff, so we would just have like little bows everywhere, like a little like candy cane Christmas town all year long in the summer.
I don't know how I came across your page, but I'm so glad I met you.
Not getting much in return, but it just takes time, and I just like started this really recently, and like my Instagram has started like flourishing more when I found these vegan socials, because vegans are such like-minded, compassionate, beautiful people. I'm so glad we touched base, and I'm so glad you took that little push and asked me to be on your podcast.
Of course.
It's just fun to spread joy. I mean, it's just fun, you know, like, believe in fairies and magicals and beautiful unicorns because it makes you happy, and that's why we're here, because we just want to feel happy. And like, if you want to live in a perceived reality of fairies and sunshine and magical, things and just like miracles, then you can like that be, you can make that. That can be it. It's not like some sort of thing out of reach. It's like you're the one who gets to choose.
We could talk for a long time.
I know, it's like it's so much better than just a dry podcast where you can't get the words out. Good night. Toodles for now. And have a lovely, lovely night. And we will talk more. Bye. Bye.
Hello everyone, it's me again. It is Safa. I just wanted to add one little tidbit. I just started my podcast. My podcast is called My Positive Pocket, and it is on all the platforms. So if you look that up and see my first few episodes, it would mean the world to me. And it's all about positivity and really just finding your sparkles. So I hope you take a look-see. And then, of course, the other things. Please go to my Instagram. My Instagram is Silver Key Creations. And I also have a Facebook page, same name. I would love to meet you. I had so much fun with this interview, and I hope you enjoyed it. But toodles for now, and thank you so much for watching.
And that's a wrap. Thanks for tuning into today's episode, and we'll see you next time.